What's good, YouTube? It's Rigo here, and I got a deck profile for Monarchs. Exceeds Monarchs specifically, if you couldn't tell by the extra deck right there. So I jump shipped a Monarch like week or so, maybe 2 weeks ago, whatever. Like right after the Timonium Regional, and this deck is just ridiculously unfair. It's really fucking stupid, and I think it's the best deck in the game. Just like the huge ceiling, the amount of plays it can do, it's ridiculous. So I went to the Shining Victory sneak preview today, um, and aside from pulling pretty well, I got pulled a Cosmo Dark Planet that I traded for a Ghost Ogre, and then like the Dragon White Spirit, whatever, that I traded for something. But in the tournament, I made it to the top four and then lost on a brick. But it happens. I was completely undefeated before that point, though. Round one, I hit Dynamist, and I 2-0'd him, and then I 2-0'd Yosenju Kaiju, then I 2-0'd my friend's Cyber Dragon deck. And then round four, we tried to split, or we tried to tie, and they wouldn't let us do that, so he just gave me the win. So, yeah. Let's get into it, I guess. And so, for Monarchs, it's just 3 Ether, 3 Erebus, 1 Karaz. I was considering cutting Erebus to 2 and putting in maybe a Majesty's Fiend in his place, but I do like the 3 Erebus just because it increases your chances of opening a big Monarch that gets your entire game plan going, because you just really don't want it like the initial mill, and then your just entire game goes off. But it does kind of suck to have multiples of them like later on in the game, so yeah, overall it's pretty good. Karaz I was running 2 of, but the more I played, the more I realized that, like, aside from just summoning him to pop return, you really never want to summon him. Like, he's honestly pretty bad. So I just ended up moving him down to 1. And, like, honestly, I haven't missed the second one that much, aside from, like, when I draw the 1 Karaz, but that's about it. And usually I can just normal summon him to pop the return. So, yeah. And then it's 2 red layer, 1 blue layer. This engine's stupidly good. Like, red layer is insane. Blue layer just lets you enable an emergency teleport. It's just a really good engine. So I run 2 Edia, 1 Mithra, 1 Ados. So I was initially trying like 3 Mithra and like none of the Squires. And I feel like that makes it more consistent, but also like really lowers the power level of the deck, because Edia, like, I actually barely use her for her like normal summon. I generally like pitch her with like Beatrice or Brilliant Fusion to get the spell or trap card back, and that just makes my ceiling so much higher. And like, yeah, it kind of sucks to draw her, like, even like especially in multiples, and it really sucks drawing Ados, but having them in the deck just heightens the ceiling to ridiculous levels. And like whenever they're not there, it kind of just feels weaker. So I probably wouldn't play more than this many Squires though. And I play 2 Gem Knight Lazuli. The reason I'll get into it because 2 Lazuli, 1 Jax Knight, and 3 Brilliant Fusion, obviously. So this is a trend that's caught on the OCG, but the TCG hasn't. Nobody in the TCG is really doing it, and it's either like Jax Knight or like Metaphyz Armed Dragon. Metaphyz has the same stats as Monarch, so he works with tenacity and stuff, but Jax Knight's a level 5, which is why I like him. And the game plan is like if you open Brilliant Fusion and like return and like no Monarchs, you can Brilliant Fusion into Lazuli Jax Knight, put the Jax Knight in your hand, use the normal Seraphonite to summon Jax Knight, use Return to add a Monarch to your hand, and then tribute Jax Knight for the Monarch. So it turns hands that are otherwise unplayable and makes them playable. So like you only really want to use him in a situation where you didn't open well, and like I wouldn't want to run a card like that, but the fact that it takes unplayable hands and makes them playable, and then in any other scenario it's just like it's 1 blank in an already absurd hand, so like why does it matter? And like it pays off. Like it does help me a lot. The reason I'm playing 2 Gem Knight Lazuli as opposed to like 1 is because I find that a lot of the time, when I was running 1, I'd open the Lazuli and then I would like Pantheism and draw into the Brilliant Fusion, and then like that'd be 2 dead cards. So I would have 2 blanks in my hand, and I effectively like didn't get a lot out of Pantheism. So I put in the second Lazuli, that way I can draw into Brilliant Fusion even if I open Lazuli and still play it. And then later on I can also Durendal a Lazuli back in my hand and play Brilliant Fusion again. So If the deck didn't have a lot of draw power, I'd still probably only play one Lazuli. Like in Pendulum, I don't mind running one because that deck doesn't really have a lot of draw power. But this deck has so much that I think it's important to consider that factor. So other spells, the one domain, this still comes up a lot, and like it's really helpful for making Beatrice, which is really good in this deck. But that's like the main reason I play it. Although being able to tribute some of the Monarch for one tribute is really good. 2 emergency teleport for blue layer. 2 Pantheism, this card's stupid. Like, it's probably the best draw card I've ever seen besides Pot of Greed. It's the best legal draw card. There we go, that's better wording for it. 3 return. I don't really like this card that much, but you need it to get your game plan going. Like, if you, like, it gets you to your, like, Monarchs and it gets your entire game going and then you want to get rid of it, but in ideal opening hands, you never even have to activate it, but this makes things a lot more consistent. But locking yourself out of the extra deck is dangerous, obviously. 3 Tenacity. 3 Stormforth. So, I actually misplayed really bad. My top 4 round against the guy is that I played Brilliant Fusion and then later on activated Stormforth, and like neither of us caught it. And then like I won that game, but he won the match, so the end result was whatever. But yeah, that's actually a major setback with Stormforth, and which is why a lot of the times I like to just set it and activate it on my opponent's turn for Ether. But like it's still really strong regardless. And 1 Upstart. And then for traps, I play 1 Isolation, 3 Prime. 3 Prime's obvious. I don't need to explain that. But the Escalation, like, this card's actually really good. It's just that you don't really get the luxury of searching it a lot unless you're already, like, really far ahead. Because usually, you know, Pantheon and Tenacity searches go to, like, searching Return and then searching Stormforth. But if you ever have, like, one of those pieces already, you get the option of searching Domain or searching Escalation. And Escalation is really nice because it turns all of your Monarchs and like even your Quantums and Jack's Knight into Ethers. So if you have like Escalation and Stormforth, but you don't have an Ether, but you have a Monarch in hand, you can just Escalation and you get the same thing. And a lot of times it's even stronger because of if you summon Erebus. Like it doesn't come up a lot, but whenever it does work, it works really damn well. So I like the 1 Escalation. And that's the main deck. For extra deck, it's 1 Felgrin, 1 Hope Harbinger. I think both of these are important because Hope Harbinger helps in the mirror, and then Felgrin's good against Burning Abyss. Neither of them are particularly good against Cosmo, but yeah, it's like 1 for each matchup. Gaia Dragon because everything's rank 5. 1 Beatrice because she enables so much. You can put Erebus in graveyard, you can put Eddie in graveyard, Eidos in graveyard. It's so good, and then you make her by Domain Ether into Karaz. 1 Adrius outs Floodgates. I actually outed a summon limit today because of this. The guy tried to like summon limit me after I activated Prime and just Adrius'd it. 1 Durandal. Part of me kind of wants to play 2. I just don't have the space, and I really don't know how often 2 of them actually comes up. So, Pleiades, Volcasaurus. This is another card I sometimes consider running 2 of, but it doesn't really come up a lot. Usually if I make Volcasaurus, I can push for game. Shark Fortress, this came up once today. Magna Liger. And then Omega and Stardust Spark. I side Ghost Ogre. So just Stardust Spark is so if I open like a way to make it in a Floodgate. Aside from Omega, if I don't open a Floodgate, I can still make a Synchro play and make Omega, but neither of them really come up that much. 1 Fortress Dragon. I also side Cyber Dragon. And the funny thing is, my round 3 was my friend who plays Cyber Dragons. And he ended on a board of Cyber Dragon Infinity, but he left Cyber Dragon out. So I just drew, went into main phase, and made Chimera Type Quartz Dragon and won. So, yeah. And then 2 Seraphinite for Brilliant Fusion. And then for side deck, is 2 Cyber Dragon for Cosmo, and like going second, I'll side out the Quantums, and I'll put in Cyber Dragon. 1 Ghost Ogre for just summoning Stardust Spark Dragon. 3 Maxi. 3 Twin Twisters. 3 Iron Wall for going first against Cosmo. I can open this plus Stardust Spark or Hope Harbinger, I just win. And then Master Restrict for Domain Monarch. So yeah, that was the entire deck. I wanted to put Majesty's Fiend in the side deck, but I didn't have room, so I just played without it. But it probably is something worth fitting in somehow, either in the side or the main. I just need to figure out how to do that. But overall, it worked really well. My only like true like major loss was to Bricks. Also, Dark Lady's a bitch, but yeah, I do think this is the best deck. The only thing I would think is possibly better than is maybe the Fire King Island version of Cosmo, but I don't know. I still feel like Monarch's stronger. Yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching YouTube. I'll see you next time, Jesus.